Edge only. So agenda of the today's session is the introduction, then what is Sitecore Experience Edge, benefits and the availability of the Sitecore Experience Edge, and types of Experience Edge API, data caching at a Sitecore Experience Edge, and how to test the Sitecore Experience Edge GraphQL queries. And I will show the demo of one of some of the queries which you will be finding useful in your day-to-day work while you are working in the headless application like React.js, Next.js, or any other. So coming to my introduction, myself Amit, and I'm having 18 plus years of IT experience, mostly in the MS Tech stack. So from last 6 plus years, I am in the Sitecore, and I have worked on the Sitecore 7.x till 10.x in the classic MVC as well as on the XXA JSS Next.js project itself. And I have touched upon a composable product like a search and CDP, personalize and connect itself. And moving to the introduction of the session, as I said that I will be providing a brief introduction about a experience edge and how it is working in terms of a implementation wise and how it is stitched together with the Sitecore platform and how you can utilize that without using the actual Sitecore experience edge SaaS offering. So that I will touch upon in this session. So coming to the what is Sitecore Experience Edge. So you saw that now every organization is moving to the microservices architecture, mesh architecture, where they are having a set of different offering, right? In terms of a product like Sitecore have acquired many companies, they are having now in their bucket like they are having a order cloud like, and they are having a discover, and they are having a search, and they are having a CDP, personalized, Sitecore sign. So those are the different microservices based products. Now you can easily integrate those into your any existing any language or any project which are you are running or you are using it. So right. So those are can be plugged into your existing application, and so that's why we are calling them as a composable digital experience platform offering, so that you can easily compose or fit into your application. So it's giving you a better interoperability so that you can do a easy integration. So in the same manner, if you will see a composable DXP, so you are having a personalized marketing automation XM cloud. Now Sitecore is pushing that every project needs to be or a upgrade. It's better to move to XM cloud to save the cost, right? So same way Edge is also a one of the composable offering from the Sitecore. It's up to you, you have to utilize or not. So in general, Experience Edge is a microservices-based architecture where you are having a scalable SaaS API services. SaaS means you are not going to implement anything. You are just going to utilize a product as pay as you go. Like you are using the Azure offering, right? SaaS services like a MS Outlook, or those are the SaaS offering. The same way you will be utilizing the Microsoft, the Sitecore Experience Edge. And what will happen into this, you are directly consuming the API and you do not need to write by your own. So it will be available over the Sitecore managed cloud, and you will be consuming those SaaS based API. So those are a CDN enabled API, so you do not need to take care about the elasticity or a high availability of those APIs. So it will be available to you. So whatever you are using it, you have to pay for that. And it's a Jamstack ready. So Jamstack ready means that you can select any of the front-end framework like a .NET or any, and you can consume those API and build your application. So you do not need to place any API layer or anything outside of that. But if you are having an enterprise organization and they wanted to have some sort of a security layer, in those cases you need to place a API layer or a proxy layer on top of your experience edge, otherwise it is not required. So moving to the high level view of the Sitecore Experience Edge. So in the left hand side, if you are seeing it, So these are the product like Content Hub 1, Content Hub, XM Cloud, and Experience Manager. So you can utilize a Experience Edge with these products. So what happened then? It is a content management. At a content management role, you will be doing the content authoring, and rest of the things are same. There is no change in a traditional CMS or using the Sitecore Experience Edge. So you will be doing the content authoring at a CMS level, and you will be content authoring means that you will be drafting a content, you will review, all the process will be same, right? So instead of a publishing at a web database, what will happen that you will be publishing to the Experience Edge. So there will be a connector from the Sitecore that you can utilize that, and that connector will publish to your Experience Edge SaaS product. So what will happen there that you are publishing a content item, and you are publishing a layout service snapshot and a media item. So those things will be published to the Experience Edge, and that will be exposed to you via a GraphQL endpoint. So what will happen in this case, a GraphQL endpoint? So you will be not having a API endpoint like you are having your own microservices like a get product or those. So there will be a GraphQL endpoint. So what will happen that you can write a GraphQL query to get a type safe data. So whatever the data is required, you can only get those data as per your need. And those endpoints are CDN enabled so that the latency of accessing a data is reduced, and you will be getting a faster content into that, and it is giving you a JSON data, right? And the media item is also served from the CDN, so you can save a cost on your media item itself. But there are some limitations are there, like a 50 MB is the size of the media item which you can use in the Experience Edge. So those you need to consider while you are building a Experience Edge based application. And later now it's a API, so you can consume that API in any of your media channel, like you are building a web application or you are building any social media application. So any question till this point? So
Yeah, one question here. You told that multimedia size is 50 MB, like image size
50
is
MB.
maximum 50 MB, right? So is it
Yes.
per image or is it combined 50 MB?
So it's the size of a single media item I'm talking about.
Mhm.
So people have tested that up to 4 MB of HTML they have tested, and 50 MB of a limit of any image which can be served from the Experience Edge to your web page or a layout service response. So that is a limitation.
Okay.
So when, as I said that when you are using the Experience Edge, right? So you are saving the cost of your content delivery. So you do not need to manage the content delivery because you are not having the CD roles in your infrastructure. So you can save a cost into that also. And it is not a dynamic layout service. It's a snapshot of layout service. It means that like you are copying the response of your JSON files into Sitecore Experience Agent CDN, and from there it is exposed via GraphQL API. So it's a static content. So nothing will be there like dynamic will be there. It's a static only. So if you are doing any content changes, then you need to publish again. If you are publishing the data again to experiences, so whatever the old data is there, that will be flushed out, and you will be having a new data. So benefit of Experience Edge is that you will be Jamstack ready, right? And faster time to end user, high performing because it's served from the CDN, so it will be high performance, scalability, elasticity will be there because on the basis of a load on your server, it will be automatically increasing the number of instances whichever is required by your application to serve. And reliability, why it will be increasing? Because you will be getting a 99.9 as the SLA for this because it's a SaaS based offering, and there will be no personalization support is there because suppose if in your XM you are having some sort of a personalization rule, or in your XP you are having some sort of personalization rule, like if user is visiting from this much this country, change this content. So those rule will not work because it's a static data. So in those cases you need to have a some sort of a middle layer where you will write a logic to get a dynamic data and replace the content. So if you are aware about a Next.js, so Next.js is providing a middleware, or if you are pushing your data to a Vercel, Vercel is also providing a middleware where you can manipulate the content on the basis of a your need, or if you need to apply any logic like a moving here and there to user from one location to another, or you need to change any manipulation, if you need to manipulate the content on the basis of a your use cases or a business need, you can do that and serve the content. So you need to do those changes to that to implement the personalization. And also, if suppose you are not going to use the Next.js, now you are planning to use the suppose a normal web-based application itself. So you can build a head in any of the language. So that is also one of the benefit. And same way, content hub and content hub one also is providing the edge-based data endpoints. So you can get a data from there. Like a content hub is a lightweight CMS. You will be not having a any sort of a UI similar to a Sitecore XM or a CMS. It's just a plain flat data. You will be adding a data there and you will be consuming that data via a APIs. So that also using the Experience Edge, and content delivery is happening via that only. So as I said that the flexibility from the tech stack point of view, you can access the data from anywhere with the API and you can utilize that, and you do not require a content delivery, so you can you will decrease your capex or a infrastructure cost, and also you can decrease your operational cost. And if we talked about the benefits, so it's better to talk about the limitation also, right? So as you aware that it's a SaaS based offering, right? And it is first thing is that it is not supporting the personalization. So in this, suppose if you are planning to implement or use the Sitecore Experience Edge in your greenfield project or existing project. So you need to first analyze your existing application. So what are the integration points are there? What type of personalization rules are there, right? So you need to note down or discover all the rules, and on the basis of that, you need to decide that you need to go with the Experience Edge or not. So it's not like that you just require the Sitecore Experience Edge offering. If you are on the Sitecore XP and you are planning to migrate to the headless, or you are going to rewrite, but you don't want to get rid of from your XP, but you need to move to the uh, headless. So in those cases, what you can do that you can build up your own content tree and move your content there via some scripts, and then you can also have a experience edge schema in your XP also. So what happened that from the site code 10 onwards, if you are implementing any of the Sitecore based application, by default you will be having a GraphQL edge based endpoint. It is not a normal GraphQL. So Sitecore is providing a two type of GraphQL schemas. One is the GraphQL and other is the edge GraphQL. So in 10 onwards, like in 19 JSS 19 onwards, all is using the edge GraphQL endpoints. So in your XP also you can utilize a GraphQL edge schema. In those cases, what will happen that instead of pushing or accessing a data from a Experience Edge SaaS offering, it will serve the data from your WebDB itself. So in those cases, you do not need to buy a subscription of a Sitecore Experience Edge, but you can utilize the Experience Edge GraphQL schema if you are keen to get a data in form of a GraphQL. So while you are creating a Next.js application or a React.js application, so it will ask you how to fetch a data. You want to fetch a data from a REST API like a layout service, or you want to fetch a data from a GraphQL. So if you are building an application using the GraphQL, so you can utilize a XP also and utilize the Edge GraphQL schema to get a data. So that is also a provision, but in those cases you will be not going to use the SaaS offering from the Sitecore. So that is a another thing you can do that. And also the schema of a GraphQL cannot be extended. So you cannot manipulate whatever is there. You need to utilize that. And also the standard values will be not present there. So that is a one more thing is that you need to consider. And also when you are publishing a Sitecore Experience Edge data to Sitecore Experience Edge, so it's taking a data from the index, whatever the index you are having, it will show the those fields into your schema only. So if you will are having a master index in your Sitecore CMS, and suppose underscore template and those things are coming from the Sitecore Solar. So if you are going to utilize a experience edge, for example, in a XP, or you are using the XM and you wanted to utilize the Edge GraphQL schema. So suppose sometimes what happened that you are not able to see the data in your application, or if you are previewing it, it means that you have not build your indexes. So to see that in your local environment, the experience edge GraphQL, so you need to build your indexes, then only you will be able to see the data. Sometimes what happened that user are telling that, or developer is telling that they have published the data, but they are not able to query the data. So it means that your index have not been populated. So in those cases, either you will rebuild from scratch, or you will rebuild it node where you have published updated the data. So that is also some type of limitations is there. Sometimes you will not see updated data. And also the security constraint. So for example, if you are having a application where you are having a role based access, right, to the data, so those things will not work in the experience edge because it's a static data snapshot of your layout service. So in those cases, generally people are using a third party federated authenticated systems, or they are having their own IAM system, or they will build their own identity and access management system, role based access system, and on the basis of that they are doing the manipulation at a head site before serving the content to you. They are doing the manipulation. So in those cases you need to do those sort of changes in your application. As I said that the media item size is a 50 MB, right? And you also cannot customize the index schema in Experience Edge. So because you cannot access the solar indexes, right, in the experiences, so you cannot create a custom indexes. Those you cannot do that. And web database is not there. And also search queries are limited. So for example, if you are using the XM Cloud, if you are having experience in XM Cloud, so you will see there that is just a content management system. So you are not getting any solar admin portal where you can go and access that. Why? Because Sitecore XM Cloud is using the Experience Edge to give you the access of the data. So, for example, if you need to implement some sort of a search in your application, simple search I am talking about, right? So you can utilize the uh, Experience Edge to build that. So in those cases, you can write a query. I will explain you or show you in a demo, so that you can use to build up your pages. But if you need to build a full-fledged, uh, say the search page or the search engine, so in those cases, you need to utilize the webhooks. So what happened that when you are publishing a content from your master CMS to the experience edge, so in those cases you need to utilize the webhooks, which will push the data to a third party uh, search engine. Like you, if you can utilize a Covio search stack or a Sitecore search, or if you are having your another standalone solar instance, right, so you can push a data to that also, and then you can build a the API of your search engine, search provider, then you can build up a full-fledged search result page. So that is another limitation. And also the main limitation is that the calls, right? So edge edge calls have a 80 API limit, right? Per second limit is there. So if you are having an application which is a request heavy, right? So in those cases, you need to think about that. You need to go with the edge or not. What it means that, so suppose if you are having a users 80 users or more than 80 users per second, then there will be a delay in getting a response also, or sometimes you will get a error in your callback. So in those cases you should have a some sort of a mechanism in your middleware which will check that what is the count or those things, and then you can have your any error page or any interim pages which can be show if something is getting down. So in those cases what happened that if you are having any authoring call also in X via experiences, that also be included in that. So what happened that in front in the experiences there is a Cloudflare is there which will be identifying that it is a you need to miss experiences needs to serve a actual call or it needs to serve a data from a uh, cache. So Cloudflare is some type of a firewall type of thing is there which will take care of control of accounting as well as throttling everything will take care. It's some sort of a IM system. So not IM, yes IM system. Oh sorry, APIM layer. It's some sort of. So if you are making a call to Experience Edge, so there is a CF cache status is there. So CF is a Cloudflare, and this cache status will tell you that it's a dynamic, means it's a serve from not serve from the cache. And if you are sending a same request, then if it's a hit, then it will tell you that it's served from the cache. And if you are seeing here that X rate limit remaining, right? So, and this is a 1 second limit. So in 1 second, you can make a 80 calls and you have already consumed a one call. So 79 is a remaining call. So these things you need to take care while you are building your front end application. And also same happen with the media request also. If you are directly hitting the media item, so it also tell a miss. It means that it's served from the cache, and if it's a hit, then it's served from the this only the cache only. If you are directly accessing the media item, and this edge sits behind a Cloudflare WAF. So WAF is a can be used to filter your request, and it can identify that the data needs to be fetched from a cache or throttling everything will be taken care by this only. So if any request goes through that web, then you are counting towards the limit. So that is a things you need to take care. And also as I said that this status you can identify that, and that this X rate limiting remaining, right? So that also you need to take care. And if you are using the authoring API, which is being pointing to your Sitecore CMS host rather than this, and internally it will get a response from Edge API only. So if you are having a any sort of a business logic where something is happening at a front end and you are pushing the data to your master, right, via authoring API, that also go via a web. So it means you are consuming your limit also. So that also you need to take care. But if you are validating any of your GQL query in a via a preview, right? So those things are not being called under the limitation or a limit of your X rate. So that is served from a master DB directly. It is not served via a Cloudflare web. So those are the limitation we need to take care. Any queries?
Let's say we are using headless, and there, as you have given the limitation for age, so let's say it's not working for me to use the age. So in that case, what are the alternative to age?
So you have reached the limit or you don't want to use the edge.
Maybe I don't want to use the age.
So in those cases, as I said that, so it's not mandatory that you need to move. See, first of all, you need to understand that Sitecore Experience Edge is a SaaS offering, right? So you need to buy a subscription for that, pay as you go. But if you don't want to buy that, but you want to utilize the Edge GraphQL, so in those cases, you need to have a web DB in your system, or you are having a XM, then you are having a master only, right? But if you are going via XM1 topology, then you will be having a web database also. Then you can have a Edge GraphQL endpoint there, which will serve the data via content delivery only. So that or that edge point also you can utilize that. So in those cases, you do not need to buy a SaaS offering, but you are utilizing your web database and you will be having a content delivery role, which is serving the content via a Edge GraphQL endpoints. That is a different schema from a normal GraphQL. So
Okay.
with that way also you can use that. So
Okay. Thank
let me explain you in one more. So if you will see here, so once you are publishing with Experience Edge connector, you are pushing to a SaaS, right, product. So if you are not going to utilize this Experience Edge offering or a SaaS service, then you are normally publishing your data to the Sitecore web database, right? But Sitecore web database, you will be having a Experience Edge GraphQL endpoints, and you can utilize that also in your front-end application. But you will be get the benefit only is that you will be getting Edge GraphQL schema, but you will be not having a benefit of this high availability, elasticity, those things, right?
you.
With that way also you can utilize that. So currently Sitecore Experience Edge is available with the Sitecore Experience Manager, Sitecore XM Cloud, Content Hub, and Content Hub 1. So these are also publishing the data via Experience Edge. And there are two types of a major GraphQL API endpoints are there. It's the preview API and the delivery API. The preview API is used to preview the data where you are not consuming the limit of your Experience Edge, Sitecore Experience Edge API limitation. And there is a delivery API. So if you are building an application via Experience Edge, so Sitecore will provide you a delivery API endpoint with the API key that you need to use in your application, head application. So if you will see that how the preview is happening. So once you are in the local environment, this content management system, you are using the preview API endpoints and you are having a front end application. So, or you are having a CMS or experience editor, right? So you will be using that to get a data, or if you need to make a query, you can utilize the preview UI ID to verify your queries. So, but if you are moving towards a your higher environment, so every time when you will preview the data, you will be using a preview endpoint. So for example, if you are having experience with the headless application, so most of the time when you are giving a preview to the content authoring team or a business user team to verify the look and feel, so generally in normal classic MVC we will be having a one preview application which is pointing to the master database, right? That way we are giving the preview. So same way you can have a one front end application which is using your edge preview API endpoints from a master, and you can give the preview to the end user. But while you are moving to the publish, which is a end user, then you can utilize experience edge and you can showcase to the user. So same way staging and these will be getting a data via experience edge while it is serving the content to the end user. And here, if you are reading that the GraphQL endpoints mirror the experience edge graphical production schema. So this production schema is also available in your local. So as you said that you don't want to use the experience edge production or experience edge offering or a service, then that schema also available in your local system also. So in suppose going forward after some years you are planning to move to the XM cloud, right? So you just need to change your content tree, because if you are not using the headless XXA, then you need to change your content tree, or you need to change your content only. But rest of the code base will work as is, because you do not need to rework on the your schema or a queries you have written. Why? Because you are already using the Edge GraphQL production schema. You are using it because XM Cloud is using the headless XXF by default, and they are using the uh, Edge endpoints only. So if you are using the normal GraphQL endpoint, and if you are planning to move to the XM Cloud or a Experience Edge, then you need to rework on your schema. So you need to keep in mind that if you are starting any new project or anything, so utilize the uh, uh, Edge GraphQL schema only. So the delivery API means that here I am trying to explain how the delivery API is working. So content management system, you are having a media assets which is being used in the content and reference. Once you will publish the data, it will be publishing to the endpoints, which is serving you the layout content as a JSON. This is a snapshot of your layout service, and it will be having a complete page snapshot. If you are having a n number of a component, so it will all give you the name of the placeholder name as well as a component name and whatever the data source is being used. So as I said that the data caching is used in the Sitecore Experience Edge, and suppose if you are building any sort of a front-end application like a static site generator, right? So you are publishing a data into a Vercel, or if you are using the Azure web app, right? And there also you can publish the static data. So in those cases, you can build a static site like a all the XM cloud, currently all the application or be delivered via SSD generation only. That's why it's the faster. So all the static site generated, it will be pushed there, and these are using the API data from the Sitecore Experience Edge and pushing to the Vercel, and that is being again served via a CDN to you, so that you are getting a faster response time of a user request. So that way the data caching is happening in the Experience Edge. So how to test the Sitecore Experience Edge graphical queries? So as I said that there are two types of IDs are there. One is the preview ID, another is the delivery ID. And preview ID is also having a preview API. So let me quickly jump to the demo. Refresh it. So I'm utilizing the demo portal website. So it is utilizing the Experience Edge, and it's having a pre-built content tree. So this is a playground for the edge. So if you are seeing here, it's a edge only. So if you are having a traditional, it will be a Sitecore API and a graph and slash UI, right? If you are using the normal graphical endpoints. So nowadays, the normal GraphQL endpoints are disabled. If you want to enable, you can enable that also. So I have having a set of a this graphical query. So I will be just giving a experience to you that how you can utilize that. So in your Next.js application, so as I said that you can build your application using the layout service also, and you can give the data via a GraphQL also. So in those cases, if suppose you are using a layout service way, but you want to utilize a GraphQL in some of your application or your component, like suppose uh, you need to manipulate the data from one or two places, and you need to serve that set to your uh, front end component. So in normal ASP.NET MVC, what we can do that you can write a controller. In controller, you can access the data from two places and you can return that to your front end application or your CSTML file, and there you can render it. But if you are in the front end application, how you will do? Because you are using the layout service, and layout service will give you directly the data. But for a specific component, you need to get a data. For example, you need to get a product detail and a product description from two different uh, sources or a node of a content tree. So then it would be difficult. So what you can do that? So there are two ways to do that. Either you will have a component directly in your Next.js, which will make a call to your this GraphQL endpoint, and you will get a data. Other workaround is that this Sitecore is providing a JSON GraphQL ID type of things. Let me show you. So if you are using the JSON rendering, so it is providing a this GraphQL query, right? So by default it's empty. It means it is expecting a data. If you will write a data, you can. It is expecting that you will be getting a data from this one. So this data you can directly consume in your head application. By default, you will be getting a data source and context item. So data source is mean that while adding into the page, if you have provided any data source, you can get that also. And if you are having a context item, you can get also. So suppose you need to get a data from a child item also, right? So you can utilize this. Or if you are having a data source and within that you are having another child, like n number of child, so you can use that manipulation also in the query, and you can return the data. So these two ways you can directly consume your GraphQL queries into your application. So so if you will see that it's expecting a path as well as the language of your application. So while if you will see that uh, the query which is being passed to your GraphQL from the layout service, while it is making a call to the Sitecore web proxy is there. So it is also passing a current language context also into that. So you need to pass a language also. So here what I am trying to show you that suppose you are having a this node in your content tree and you need to get a data for that. So I'm passing this query variable and you need to pass a API key also. This API key most probably you will be knowing that it will be coming from system settings, services API key. This is the API key you need to do. While you are using the preview, you need to pass a this API key. And whatever the query parameters you are having, you need to write like this and you can pass it from there and you can get a data. So now this is a simple query. So now this is giving a ID or name. Now if you need to alias your queries or a field name, like a friendly name, you need to give that. So you can do the aliasing also in that. So ID I am changing to the item ID. So that also you can do that. And suppose if you are building a component and you will be not knowing that what type of properties you need to consume right in your application or in your component. So these fields and the name can give you a whatever the properties or a fields are present. What happened? Oh, sorry. So you can get that all the fields. So this is only having a one field. So if I will take a another item from a content tree, so you can get all the fields name and you can utilize this property in your component itself. So this way also you can get all the fields details. And as I said that you can also get a children also into this. So you what you can do that you need to avoid doing the customization at a CMS level. If something is not being working with the GraphQL, right? Then only you need to move to the custom content resolver. Otherwise, it's better to utilize the GraphQL because you do not need to write any custom code for that in your server side implementation. So with this, you can get all the childs also for this item. So suppose if I will change this to, so it will give you all the childs of the parent itself. So now if you need to get a specific values also, so so I have documented all these query. Some places I will share those details. So here you are seeing that you are getting all the data which are present inside the speakers. So this is the speaker. So you are getting all the data, page component and everything. So if you need to restrict that data and you need to get a data from a specific template, right, from your child element, so that also you can restrict in the this. So you can get a only the required data. Like if you are trying to get all the speakers from your content tree, then you can do that also. So these things are very useful when you are trying to build up some sort of a carousel, or you are trying to build some sort of a front end component where you are having a list type of thing. So these things are very useful in that. And yes, so now suppose if you are having a multi-list. So as I said that it will just store the data in the form of a, so if you will see that the speaker, right, specific speaker, if I will go, and this is having a sessions. So multi-list by default store as a this GUID, right? So this data is, if you will check the indexes or a solar data of this, so there also you will see that it is stored as a GUID. But if you are implementing a application, right, so you need to get this data. So what you can do that you can manipulate the child item also, whatever is present, and you can target that item and you can get the data. Like this is a session fields, right? Session list, I have given a name. There is a target items, means I am going to access the n number of items which are present in this particular fields, and those items are based on a session. So the one more benefit of a GraphQL is that this is giving you a type safe data. Type safe means that whatever the fields are present in a specific templates, you can get those details directly, and the data which is required by you, you can get those only. It will not giving you a unnecessary data. You can control the output of your graphical response. So in this case, I can get all the data irrespective of a it is present in any other content tree item. I can get that also in a single call. So this way you can save a number of calls to your backend system. And so this is another example that if you need to alias the names of a these things, even you can alias a field value itself like this. So there are many things you can do with the GraphQL in terms of getting a specific data. And one more thing is that there is a things called a fragmentation. So fragmentation means that this is a GraphQL term not related to the Sitecore. So suppose if you are manipulating a data many times in your GraphQL query, like earlier we did that we tried to get a data from a this session list. So suppose if you are having another content item in your content tree which is also using a session list. So instead of writing a query n number of times, right? So you can define that query in some places, right? And you can reuse anywhere. Those things are called a fragmentation. You can create a fragment and you can reuse that. So here if you are seeing that I have created a parent fragmentation called sessions, and session is also having a rooms as a multi-list. So for room also I have created a fragmentation and I have combined in one. So when I am firing a query, so within a one query, I am getting a session list also within that. If any other things are there, I am also getting. So what I am trying to explain here is that you can utilize these things to get a child of a child and number of uh, a number of childs you can get it from a single query also via this fragmentation also. Or if you are having a multi-list or anything, you can get a data in one call itself. This I have already shown. Fragmentation is done. So now coming to that, the search queries. So that is also a very interesting thing. So in those cases, what so it is also providing a search schema also. You can have a and or operator and you can get a data also, and you can limit the number of items which you need to get into your call also. And it's also providing you a cursor. You can move next previous also with this. So I'm just trying to make a call to with this value. So so it is giving me a all the data which is present inside the speakers, right? So with this way you can get a number of data. So suppose one thing I shown you that you can get a child level, you can implement a listing, or if you want to utilize a search query with a dynamic search query, suppose you are having a um, n number of featured items or a related item type of things, right? And there you need to display when you are opening a article and you need to display some sort of a product or any authoring details, right? So you can pass dynamic value to this path and you can utilize a single component to present the data. So that way also you can utilize this. So if you want to restrict the data, that also you can do that. So currently I am not passing any data dynamically to this. So in this query, I am trying to restrict and I am making the page size and those things as a dynamic one. So if you will see here, you are getting the end cursor and here the has next is false. It means that it is only returning a 20 records and my page size is 30. So all records are presented. Suppose if I will decrease it to 10. So total number of record is 20 and has next is true. It means that it is having a page. So with the help of this attribute, you can implement a pagination in your front end application. So with this, what I'm trying to show you that earlier I was getting all the data. So now I am restricting my result that it should not return me a result where the path item is this one. So I'm restricting that do not give me the result where the path present this item. So you can also pass a order by clause also in this. So there is a ordering field is there, type is there. You can pass a order by also. So there, as I said that you can implement a simple pagination. You cannot implement a very flashy search database. You cannot implement with this. So now the main thing is that how you can get a pagination work in your application. So suppose if I am firing, this is giving me a single item only. So has next is false because I am passing a Alex. Now if I am changing this, so I am getting a 18 record and here has next is false because my page size is 30 and I am not passing anything to value after. So value after, if you will see that I am using in a after parameter. So now i- it's returning me a total 18 records and there the page info is that this is a cursor. So cursor is that 1 to 18 record. I am on the page 1. So I am getting a end item cursor item and has next is equal to true. It means that your query is also returning you a more records, but currently the your page size is set to 10 and then you are showing the page number 1. Now if I need to get a second page when user are clicking on the number 2, so those manipulation you need to do at your front end, those things. So now this end cursor value I need to use in the value after while making a secondary call from my front end to back end, this GraphQL endpoint, then it will return me a rest of the 8 records. So if you will count this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have completed my or shown all the search results and now this become a false. So it means when you are manipulating your front end, in that you need to use this has next to enable disable the previous next button. And now if I will try to use this end cursor here again, right, this, so you will get an empty record because you do not have any result in your system. So you cannot use this end cursor again to get a record because it has next is false. So with this way you can implement a search also in your application. And if you are seeing here that I have utilized the and also, and if you are having the n number of fields in your content tree which you need to target to get a data, you can use the contains or equal, it's up to you. So you can have a n number of a fields here where you need to search it. For example, you are having an article where you need to search on the article title. You are having an event, you need to search in the event name. If you are having a blogs, you need to search the blog title as well as blog description. So all fields you can mention it here and you do not need to give a path or anything. It will be taken care by the GraphQL by itself. So that way you can implement this pagination also. So that is done. And one more interesting thing is that this language fallback. So suppose this will be also taken care by Experience Edge. Suppose you in your content tree you are having a two records. One is this one and other is this. So if you will see that I am having a two languages in my application, right? One is the English and other is the French, right? And this record is having a English and a French version, and this is not having a English and a French version is not present in this. But fallback is enabled. But if you are not having a this patch configuration in your system, then you will be not getting a data. So if you want to use the fallback mechanism of your language in the experience edge, so you need to enable this setting in the your CMS site, then only you will be getting a language fallback functionality facility in your application. So here if you are seeing here, I am having a French version for this item, but I am not having a French version for this, but I am getting a fallback language English details in this. So that is another things you need to think through while you are implementing a experience edge.